Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today at 1:30. Um, I'm going to be taking questions today live. I want to make sure that I answer all the questions that are going on right now. I know that there's a lot of concerns with regards to what's going on, what's happening with the different orders, and what, as associations, we should do. So I apologize that I don't have my full setup like I do at home. We'll work to remedy that as more and more of you join us. I appreciate it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up some documents that I've prepared on my other screens here and kind of give you a list of what's going on and what's happening. So let's first start with what is happening, and I'll give you a rundown. This is going to be Broward County first, and then Palm Beach. And Broward County really mirrors what's going on in Miami. So here's what's opening up right now in Broward. Recreational facilities, golf courses, boat ramps, marinas, and pools in multifamily developments. And I know this is going to be a big issue that we're going to address today with all of you, and I'm going to be taking questions on this. But the pool openings, it's all going to be effective today, Wednesday the 29th. How they're going to do the details and so forth, Broward says they're going to work on it tomorrow. But here's some of the specifications, and these are where we need to be concerned. Golf courses, unless you're in a country club, and that's going to be managed by a separate association, separate organization or corporation that does golf courses, that's not going to be addressed by me. Boat ramps, marinas, public and private, again, that's not going to be addressed by me unless you have a specific question that I can help you with. The pools. Now, when we talk about pools, they're talking about in multifamily housing developments. You can now open up your pools to do so. Let's see here, 1 second. We have people trying to join us that are having a little bit of a difficulty to do so. Please just go to YouTube and then look up the name for the law firm, and it should be right there. So hopefully that helps out at this point. Okay, so what do we do with our pools? The governor is saying, and the different counties now are saying, go ahead and you can open up the pools to use in the associations. The caveat, and this is really important because I think for the most part this is next to impossible to go ahead and comply with most of the communities. You have to provide maintenance staff to sanitize pool chairs and railings after every use. And let me really be clear about that. And I want to write that down in here. Maintenance staff must sanitize pool chairs and railings after every use. I mean, this in itself is something that you got to really look at and understand just the mass resources that as an association you're going to have to provide for your members in order to comply. Additional, face coverings must be worn while traveling to and from the pool, including in hallways and elevators. Social distancing must be observed in all of these spaces. Frequent hand washing and sanitizing is encouraged, of course, as we would expect in all circumstances. Okay, so let's now go ahead and see. Beaches are going to remain closed. This is for now in Broward County. Let me address Palm Beach very quickly. And what they're doing, I did summarize it. Palm Beach, what they're going to be doing is pool capacity shall be limited to ensure that social distancing in accordance with CDC guidelines is maintained at all times. By the way, this should be in every single association, whether Miami, Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach. You need to be doing this on all of your pools, all of your communities. And we're going to talk about how to approach that. Locker room and shower facilities shall remain closed. Restrooms shall be cleaned and disinfected regularly throughout the day. Soap and water or hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes shall be provided in each restroom. Pool deck seating or lounging shall be restricted to ensure social distancing in accordance with CDC guidelines. Again, these are very, very specific requirements that are going to have to be met. One or more faculty, staff, or management must be present at each facility. I mean, this is Palm Beach, but I will say to you that I believe this should be applied tri-county. In fact, throughout the entire state. Let's see here. One or more, let's see, I'm being told that some people are complaining they can't reach us. But I do see that we do have a number of people following, so I'm hoping that that's not indicative of everyone, and we'll work with those people later to do so. So let me finish here where we're at. We've got here pool deck seating and lounging shall be restricted for social distancing. One or more faculty, staff, or management must be present to monitor and ensure compliance with the restrictions. It will be acceptable for staff or management to delegate monitoring and compliance responsibility to board members. Obviously, something we really want to see happen is board members have to be responsible for this. If they or other volunteers, community volunteers, if they believe that the pool can be operated safely and in compliance with the executive order. If these accommodations are unsuccessful, the pool should be closed until alternative monitoring arrangements are put into place. And then there's a very large order. If you want it, I can send it to you so you can have it. Here's the deal. As I see it, most of what is required for you all to open up your pools right now and other facilities at the association is next to impossible to comply with. I've heard from a number of managers that associations are going, you know what, forget about this. I don't care. We're not going to restrict our owners anymore. We've got to open up the pools. People are cooped up. They need a way to get out. They need something to be able to do. Understand this. There are lawyers already looking at causes of action against associations, against businesses. They are looking for people getting sick. They're looking for conditions for work conditions where people are getting sick and there's potential for claims. And they're looking at it as from a personal injury standpoint. Okay? I have a podcast that I did a few nights ago talking about gun laws and about the Trayvon Martin case and another case where an association, 2 members were shot over a covenant enforcement and killed, and where in all these instances, associations are getting sued for, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for compensation. The same thing is going now in businesses. There's business interruption as a result of the COVID-19. And most of all, there is concern about people getting infected, having to deal with the costs to their family, loss of wages, healthcare costs, and so forth. How do you extrapolate all that to associations? It's very simple. You now have, under these new guidelines, have to make your pools and your pool deck CDC compliant. What does that mean? 1, it means no more than 10 gathering. Let's say you want to skirt that. That's fine. We're going to do social distancing. So now you have to keep everybody 6 feet apart. Okay. Well, what if you're a community with 50, 60, 100 plus people, and you've got an average pool, maybe a little bit above average, that on an average day or an average week sees around 5, maybe 10 people that can clearly social distance. Now you've got a situation where most retail is still not open, restaurants are not open, there is nowhere to go, the beaches are still closed, and now your members want to come to the community pool and start using it. And they say, you know what, you got to let us out of here. I pay for this, it's part of my assessments, and I want in. And you say as an association, we can't regulate this, we can't comply. Don't worry about it. It's on us. We're responsible. Person goes in, gets hurt by getting infected. Obviously, I'm not even talking about slip and falls and so forth. I'm talking about getting hurt and getting infected. And now, 1, they have long-standing issues, or 2, they have, health concerns that have to go on and on being treated, or worse, 3, they unfortunately pass on. I can assure you that a halfway decent lawyer is going to give guidance to their family, their loved ones, and say, you need to take legal action against this association that allowed its pool to open up, that allowed its members to access these areas and go ahead and use them to their detriment and not complying with the guidelines, as I point to my other screen, looking at those guidelines. So ask yourself, do we have the resources? Are our members going to pay to have a staff member there watching and making sure everybody's 6 feet apart? I believe the answer is going to be no, right? You're not going to have those resources. And if you do, the next part is that person, in addition to making sure that everybody's 6 feet apart, going to go clean up after everybody touches a rail or a seat and vacates it, and somebody else before they come is going to do that. I was at Costco the other day. I wore a glove over my hand. I brought the cart back out and I put it back in line. Lady said, "Sir, I appreciate it. I still have to disinfect it." Okay? You have to do the same thing here for all of your pool equipment. And if you have restrooms at the pool, the same thing has to go for the restrooms. If you don't do that, you are going to be liable for causes of action for people getting the disease. Now, I've heard that there are some insurance companies that will not insure you at this point if you allow people to come into your pool areas and not to comply with the social distancing. Forget all that. They don't want you opening up right now until you can fully comply with every single CDC guideline. Now, I can't give you an opinion on each one of your policies because I don't have them and I don't memorize them all, but you need to look at that before you put yourself and your association in harm's way for potential litigation. Because everybody couldn't be happier right now to come out, use your facilities, say hello, get a chance to get out, get a chance to, it's been crazy. But as soon as one person in that family gets sick, and as soon as that taxes the rest of the family or it spreads, it's going to be the association's fault. We relied on the association allowing us in. Okay? What happens next with your facilities that can accommodate all of these people wanting to come in? What happens when you've got a line of people and you've got this one person attending at the gate entrance to the pool and said, "I'm sorry, we're filled to capacity." And the rest of the people outside say, "Well, I'm sorry, this is my pool too. I pay for the assessments too. I have a right to it also." I spoke about this about a week or two ago in one of my video casts where I suggested that if you're going to start engaging in action allowing people to use your pool, that you go ahead and quickly come up with rules and regulations that you're going to have to somehow enforce, and if you can't enforce it, then keep it shut, where you allow people a certain amount of time during the day to be at the pool. Once they come there, they have an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it may be, but you're going to have somebody there maintaining that and enforcing that. And that's going to be the really tough part. So let me tell you really quick about the argument, hey, I pay for this too. If you're not going to let me use my pool, I'm going to take away my portion of my assessments for that pool. It doesn't work like that. As we all know, many associations have a plethora of amenities that not every owner uses. For instance, and I gave this example in one of my past video casts, my association has a playground. Well, my youngest is almost 15 years old. I assure you he's not using the playground. He's also not using the volleyball courts. He uses the basketball court occasionally, and then he uses some of the tennis court occasionally. Does that negate my obligation to pay for my assessments for my community? The answer is no. There'll be people in my community that never go to the park in the middle of the community to use any of the amenities, even the green space. Does that negate their obligation? Obviously, no. The same argument's going to be made here for the use of your pool, especially now when we're under this governor's emergency order. We are still under the order, by the way. The order has not been lifted. So the associations, in turn, under 719 for co-op, 720 for HOA, and 718 for condos, still have your specific emergency actions, emergency rights that can be enforced during this time. So what do? The first thing we do is we don't put board members in harm's way by becoming the surrogates for management or maintenance to go out there and tell, Mr. John and Miss Jane, you're too close to each other, and they say, go piss off. We'll be where we want to be. We're grown adults. Because the answer is, if either of them gets sick from the other, they're going to blame the association for allowing the situation and not managing it right. Second of all, and I've said this a number of times before, very difficult to get a board member for what's called a breach of fiduciary duty, right? The statute provides and the law provides that it has to be something that's criminal in nature, self-dealing, or they benefit, which is really self-dealing, but they sometimes explain it as both, okay? So clearly the board members are not self-dealing or criminal in nature. However, there is a unused negligence provision that is in the statute, yet no court has ever adopted. Can you see that? Can I see that coming into play now with these types of things where a board goes against the CDC regulations, against the regulations of the, and I apologize, we keep getting pop-ups with stuff because business of the day is still going on, and I have things, obviously I'm going to have to respond to a lot of clients. I'm just trying to do this as an overall so you all get a better idea. And again, I'm really looking forward to getting some questions here so I can address them for you. But as an overall, do I see this as a potential for people coming in and saying, hey, board member Guy Shear, you stood at the pool, allowed people to come in, did what you did, and we relied on you. We fought you, but we relied on you. And as a result of that, I'm sick now, and now I've got to quarantine. Now I can't go to work. Now I can't do what I needed to do. Now my family's terrified. By the way, I don't have the best health condition potentially, and I'm terrified that I may be going to a position where I may be sick, and I may be, healthcare costs, potential death or permanent injury, and it's all because you allowed me to enter the pool. You may think of this as frivolous right now, but this is what personal injury attorneys who are looking for the easy kill, the class action lawsuits, the go against the insurance company and get money from them look to do, unfortunately. And everybody has a right to this. I want our associations, my clients, not to put yourself in that position. The other part is going to be, how are you going to determine which of your members came first, which member gets to go in first while you continue ensuring the social distancing is being done. It's going to be just a wild mess, right? You're going to have to call the police, security. Hey, this neighbor is being unruly. This neighbor is not doing what they need to do, and so on and so forth. So the problem's going to be that you need to get a plan in action, and unless you can comply with all of the CDC guidelines, unless you can comply with limiting pool capacity and to ensure social distancing in accordance with the CDC guidelines, wiping down all of the furniture, the railings, all the equipment in the pool area once an owner goes and somebody else comes up with proper sanitizers, disinfecting lounge chairs, having a staff member present to monitor and ensure the compliance throughout the whole operations of your pool. So if your pool opens at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning or earlier and doesn't go till 8, 9 o'clock at night or daylight time, at least 8, are you going to commit a staff member there, commit a member of the a board there, or put a volunteer member who's going to be overwhelmed? And finally, what does happen when one member says, look, I've been here an hour, I get it, I'm not leaving, this is my pool too. Are we going to call the police on all these people? I think the solution at this point is very simple. The solution has to be that unless you're willing to commit and tell your members, unless we're willing to commit funds for a person to be hired by either the management company or somehow, or somewhere else, a security company and so forth, if we're not willing to commit to those funds, if we're not willing to all of us commit to abiding by what that person or persons tells us to do, not commit by paying for not only their services, but for the cleaning, for the hours that they're going to be here, this will remain closed until further notice by the CDC. Unfortunately, I don't see that changing until such time as there is either a vaccine, a cure, or at least a treatment that can treat it if you get it, to obviously minimize or cure you from the disease pending a vaccine. And that's the reality of what we're talking about. I have heard from some associations, look, we get 1 or 2 people on average using the pool. That's terrific. If you get inundated, how are you going to come back from that? What are you going to do as people flood the pools? I will tell you, driving in my own neighborhood yesterday, I saw a bunch of people congregating on the basketball courts in violation of what we had put in there. And we actually cut the nets to a degree so people couldn't play, and they're still playing there. We don't have the security forces. We don't have the manpower, and frankly, we don't want to spend the money because we have other projects that we have to attend to and have been committed to address this. So we're sending out another blast. Please do not do that. Please comply with social distancing. Please, please, please. So let's see what we have here. Developing. Okay, so the question is, and I don't know if this part I don't know, and you can all tell me if everybody sees the question being posed or if it's only me. Until I learn which one it is, I'm going to read it out loud so you all know. There is talk about Congress developing legislation and President Trump signing legislation limiting laws and litigation related to COVID-19. Can that happen? Absolutely, it can happen. I doubt it will. It's a constitutional issue, obviously, and these things are great until the Supreme Court gets involved, or first of all, the local, state, and federal courts get involved, depending on what type of claim it is, and stop that. For now, it's not there. For now, your insurance companies I'm being told by a few managers that you have insurance companies who are basically coming out and saying, we will not cover a claim during this time if you allow people to use your common facilities. Simple as that. We will not allow you to use your common facilities and then make a claim against insurance to pay for it. You're under a pandemic. Unless you can prove, I imagine the caveat, again, I need to look at the policy, but unless you can prove that you have a person there full-time, maintaining compliance with social distancing, cleaning up, doing every single facet of what the governor and the local counties, mayors have assigned and mandated, you will not be covered. And I promise you, insurance companies will look for every which way they can out of coverage as opposed to into coverage. And again, big concern I have is I do not want, and I'm going to say it one last time, I do not want board members assuming this role. It's not for you to do. You're not getting paid for it. And there's a legal term, it's called surus. And for those of you who don't know Latin, what surus means, it means a pain in you for doing so that will only get bigger and bigger and follow you around if you do so. So do not go ahead and take it upon yourself so the members of your community could start using the pool. Because I promise you, they'll love you in the beginning. But when you say to them, Beth, it's time to leave. You've been here an hour and 10 minutes, and I've got a line of 10 people waiting, and some people had to go home because it was too hot, and I'm supposed to call them back and bring them in. So is this going to be like Outback, where you're going to get that little vibrating card that you take with you until such time as your table is ready? It's too many issues here that you're going to have to deal with that simply doesn't make this a worthwhile endeavor and makes it more of a risk and more of a potential litigation. Next question. Do you have a blanket memo we can send to residents that facilities will remain closed? Yes. I will work on one that I think can work for all of my clients and my associations, and I will work to do something that can do that. Unfortunately, some of you, if we're only going to talk about pools, it's easier to do it that way, but if there's other facilities, obviously that has to be honed per association. But I assure you, it's not an expensive endeavor to do so. This is more of a health, welfare, and safety issue, and I want to make sure that we're all doing our part to ensure, one, that the associations don't become involved in too much litigation, and two, most important, that our members, our board members, our members, their families, their guests and invitees remain safe. How would a PI attorney going to prove causation in a negligence claim, how would they prove that the association was the cause of getting COVID? Great question. Great question. So if I was the person trying to do that, what I would do is I would go ahead and say, when did you get it? Well, I got it, within the last 14 days. Where were you? So this is that tracking that they want to do with regards to people. Well, I was at the association's pool. Oh, okay. Where else were you? I went to Publix, I went here, I went there. Okay, I'm going to check with Publix. Any cases of COVID that were reported there since that, in the last 2 weeks? No. I'm going to go to the association. Anybody in COVID was at the pool. I may be able to find out that somebody at the pool had it. Obviously, it's going to be hard, right? If they're asymptomatic, if they were just a carrier, which is, again, asymptomatic and didn't have that, then it's going to be hard to prove that it was there. But if somebody has full-blown COVID right after that, then yes. Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it your client or is it somebody else? The point is that you may be able to prove it. The point is that depending on the resources of the firm, they may be able to do that going back and looking at other people. Do we want to take that risk? I think we don't. I, again, think that the risk is not worth it. Let's see here. We currently have members that are threatening lawsuits if the pool is not open. How do we respond? Exactly like we're talking about here today. Threaten all you want. Take us to court. One, the emergency powers under Chapter 718, which is the condo statute, prevail here and give us the authority. Two, the guidelines issued by Palm Beach County today, we cannot comply with. We don't have the resources, the manpower, and when I talk about resources, I am talking about both manpower and finances, but the resources and the manpower to do so. So we are going to protect your health, your welfare, your safety, and everybody else is here. Because when you're here with everyone else, not just alone. So we don't know what you have. We don't know what they have. We're not going to delve into that at this point. What we're going to do is we're going to comply with this. And I promise you that I would take your case, not just because I represent you, but your case over the other side every single day and twice on Sundays, I like to say. I think you have a 99.9% chance of prevailing right now. Okay? Because you cannot provide. The guidelines I read now are from Palm Beach County. Broward's are a little less certain or specific. I think they're going to mirror Palm Beach. I think Palm Beach did a great job in doing so, and I know the person who asked me that question, their association is in Palm Beach County. I don't believe your association can comply with this, and I don't think you want to spend the resources to do so. What liability would a management company have if a board decides to open the pool without complying to the guidelines after they've been advised? Okay, great question. The way I would do so, very simple. I would go ahead and put it in writing. This is what we understand the guidelines to be. This is what we understand your capability to be. We don't think they match. We think you should get a legal opinion. We cannot be responsible for these violations, and we are telling you right now that we believe, as non-attorneys, that your actions will not comply with what the county, Broward, Palm Beach, Miami, the state have set forth, and as a result of that, we take no responsibility for any actions taken against the association by anyone whatsoever with regards to opening up the pool. And you put it in writing. We value you as an association. We value you as a client. Hey, heck, we may value you as a relationship that we have over the years. The problem is that you are putting yourself, your association, and your members in a position that violates a county emergency order. Can't do that. But again, please put that in writing. Verbal confirmations, verbal discussions go nowhere. Right. Great question. Don't associations already have liability for someone who gets COVID in elevator, halls, or lobby? You know, the answer to that question, I think, really has to weigh on whether or not the association is doing everything in its effort to mandate people sheltering in place, people using gloves, using masks, using the protective gear that's required right now to do so. First of all, there is a requirement throughout, I think, the entire country, but for sure the state of Florida, that you wear a mask, okay? You have to wear a mask right now. That's the biggest way you transmit and get the virus, through your eyes, nose, and mouth. So, you all may be wondering if I'm very patriotic, and yes, I am. I love our country. But this is something that I've been using. It's not as effective, I agree, as an N95 mask. However, it's more comfortable, and it's something that I'm able to use all day long if necessary. And we do have, and we're fortunate to have people coming in, dropping off documents, asking questions. We are social distancing. We are keeping our masks on, or our buff, or this is called the Buff. It's the brand, BUFF, if you're interested on Amazon. Now, I also wear when I go outside, no matter if I need them or not at this point, I also wear my glasses to ensure, again, some protection from the eyes. But as an association, you're doing everything you can to limit the exposure, to understand that if somebody has tested positive or is obvious that they have it or have symptoms of it, that you ask them and mandate that they go and shelter in place in their residence. As far as doing, the elevators and so forth, you're going to tell your members to do that, and to the ability that you're able to, you're going to do that. You're going to ask your members, please don't touch the railings. Please don't touch the halls, the walls in the halls. Please don't touch the buttons in the elevator. Try to use, something else, that's non-marking or non-damaging. But ultimately, as a board, as an association, you put in protocols that are the best you can within your means. And you advise them and you do them, and you try to enforce your the statutes, not the statutes, but the orders. Those are more emergencies orders, both coming out of your counties and out of the state. If owners violate the rules, do we have a duty to call the police, or if owners are violating the CDC guidelines? Great question. So, do you have a duty to call the police? It depends, right? Unfortunately, it depends. If you have people using your recreational facilities, and again, we're just going to talk about pools right now, but I would include basketball courts, I would include bocce courts, I would include anything close. Tennis, there's a thought that, at least in tennis, as long as you're not playing doubles, you're on one side or another, hopefully it's family, it's not friends, but if it's friends, the transmission through the ball may or may not be there, frankly, but that's for them to decide. Maybe they all put on, some type of antibacterial on their hands, and they're not wiping on their faces and so forth, and they're playing tennis. It's far enough apart that, I'm trying not to be nitpicky. I'm trying to look at this as an objective manner, and look at this as trying to be fair to people. My family, as an example, we're walking twice a day. Obviously, my family at home, I don't get to join them for all those walks, but I walk at night. On the weekends, we ride bikes. And the beautiful thing about this is, if you look in your neighborhoods, hopefully most of them, if not all of them, you see just a renaissance of people outside rediscovering what it is to not just go to the mall, go to the movies, go mindlessly somewhere to spend money or do something or eat something, and rather get back to, being together. Having said that, I'm not here to preach. If you have owners that are going into a closed off, sealed off pool, you call the police. Absolutely. And you document it. I would take pictures with your iPhones or Androids. I would take a video of it. I would not put any one board member in harm's way by a very direct confrontation. Okay, I would take it outside and say, look, I'm asking you, and put this on your video so you can document it. I'm asking you, as a member of this association, as your neighbor, as your friend, as your board member, please vacate this area. It is not safe right now under the CDC guidelines. We are unable to comply with the guidelines set down by Palm Beach County or the state of Florida, and as such, we have to have this remain closed for your safety, the safety of everyone in there, and all of us. Thank you. They don't do that, that's fine. Call the police. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm the member of the board of directors for my association, and unfortunately we have somebody in the pool area, in the recreational area, that is using it when it has been closed because we are unable to comply with Miami, Broward, Palm Beach, wherever you may be or may live, guidelines that have been set forth, including the state guidelines, as we are compelled to do so. We cannot do so, so we've closed it, and they insist on coming in anyways. And I believe that the police will come and do so, and remove them from the facility. What else violates the rules? Right. So yes. So do you have a duty? The other part of it is, well, obviously you have somebody coughing, whether real or not, but coughing on people and threatening people that way, and that is a threatening act. Yes, you should be calling the police on all of those issues. If it's a regular rule and regulation that's being violated, no, we take care of that in-house through calling my office or whoever is the attorney that you all use, and you go through that form of covenant enforcement. We're talking about only guidelines that only actions are violating the guidelines. Just pardon me 1 second. Nice cup of coffee. So, any other questions? I always try to keep my my video casts under or at 30 minutes. I so appreciate everybody hanging on and watching and participating. I really wanted to use this as a overall so you all understand what's going on, because I frankly got probably a dozen messages today. What do we do about our pools? Okay, so I'm hoping somebody who just said open the pools now is kidding around. I think they are. I'm sure they are. Look, you know, if you're fortunate enough, you have your own pool in your own house, then there's nothing to it. You use your pool and you take the risks that you do by inviting people over to use your pool if you want to. I think that's a huge risk. I think that every person has an obligation to comply with these guidelines to ensure that nobody is hurt or can get infected. If you're an association, you need to ensure that you comply. Again, insurance, lawsuits, liability. Let's make sure that none of those occur. With that, I think we're going to end our live cast. I'm going to remind everybody, thank you for participating. Please click on the bell to make sure you get notices. Please check us out on at Sheer Law Group on Twitter. I try to announce all of my upcoming podcasts and video casts. I will be taking some of my video casts and converting them into podcasts so you can listen to them later if you choose to. Maybe you need help falling asleep. No, but in all seriousness, if it's something that assists you, I'm going to do that so you can listen on your iPhone or Android in the car or otherwise. And tomorrow we will be having Debbie from my office who does family law, estate planning, to try to deal with what to do during these times, especially with regards to estate planning and some forecasting on how you should be, addressing those issues in case, God forbid. And that'll be at 8:30, also a live feed. So, thank you so very much, everybody. I wish you only the best in health. I do have some clients who have asked for things in writing. I'm going to try to do also something that's a more broad-based one that you can use, and maybe we can tweak for your specific association. And again, as always, please feel free to tweet me with questions or email me or call me to ask questions if you want. I wish you all the best, good health, and thank you again. And with that, we will conclude today's podcast, and I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thank you again. Take care.